T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Kush's Corner here on the Trap Talk Reptile Network, the coolest reptile network in the world. Tonight, I'm joined by Mason Barnes. We got a lot of cool topics to get into tonight: lace monitors, horn lizards, etc. Everything that Mason is working with, as well as definitely getting into the topic of social media a little bit and kind of navigating that landscape in the current state of the hobby. Before we get into that conversation, as always, USARK. So USARK is the organization that is fighting for our rights to keep our reptiles, to run our reptile businesses, and to live this lifestyle. Check out usark.org for all of the information you need to know about the organization. usark.org is also where you can find alerts and updates on new legislation introduced at either the federal level or at local levels. And usark.org is also where you can become a member of the organization. As a community, we have strength in numbers, and the more people that are behind the cause, the better. And here we are. Thank you to everybody for tuning in either live here on YouTube or after the fact. If you are here on YouTube, please give a subscribe here to the Trap Talk Reptile Network. A new show drops every single day of the week from some of the best hosts in the game, talking about a wide variety of topics from within the reptile industry. So if you are a fan of reptile podcasts, you've come to the right place. We are also on the audio platforms, be that Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast from. You can find the Trap Talk Reptile Network. A follow, 5-star review on any of those platforms would be most appreciated. Drop a comment under on any of your favorite podcasts as well. All of that is most appreciated. And yeah, thank you everyone for being here tonight. Kind of something new I'm going to be doing here. And honestly, it's not too much of a deviation from what I've already done, but definitely want to use this platform more to highlight some of the younger people in the industry who are really doing it at the highest level, kind of the next generation of herpetoculture. I myself am on the younger side in the industry, and within no time, everyone in my generation are going to be the ones who are leading the pack. And I think we have a great opportunity to obviously learn from the people who've done it before us, to do some things better, to keep the traditions going of the things that have been working well. And Mason is definitely somebody who I will say he's been on my list of people to have on the show for a long time anyway. So this, has no implication on that. But nonetheless, Mason is one of the young guys in the hobby, really doing it the right way, and is definitely a great example of somebody to kind of exemplify this new generation. So with all that out of the way, let's get Mason onto the show. What's going on, dude? Thank you for being with me tonight.
Yeah, of course.
Hell yeah.
Anytime.
Absolutely. So, man, I guess just to jump right into it, for anybody on here who hasn't maybe heard you on a podcast before or whatever, kind of give us a little bit of the rundown of your life and times in reptiles, kind of what brought you to this point you're at today.
Yeah. So, similar to what, everybody else's origin story in this hobby is, started really young. Mm-hmm. My parents and my grandparents for Christmas one year got me a bearded dragon. And it just kind of went from there. When I was I kept the bearded dragon. He lived till he was like 15 years old or something like that. And then I had a couple things here and there, corn snake, king snake, whatever. And then I actually got out of the hobby for a little bit when I was like late middle school and then all through high school. And then I was bored when I got out of high school and I got back into the hobby. And now, however many years ago that was, graduated in 17. Here we are. And obviously it's scaled to the point of what we're doing now, but yeah, never would I have thought that this would have been, what it is now when I was a kid, but
Yeah.
Now half my house is animals. So
I know.
as I'm sure yours is too.
Oh yeah. You can't turn a corner without seeing a cage or something like that.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, when you were, when you had your first pet and you were young, what was your thought process on the hobby back then? Was it kind of like, hey, these animals are really cool, I'm enjoying keeping them, or did you have aspirations? Because people in our age range, we had the beginning of the reptile internet, YouTube and everything at our fingertips when we were getting into it, which a lot of people can't say who are in generations older than us. So like for me, it was really easy to okay, reptiles are cool, let's go on YouTube. And the old algorithm would give you a snake bites video within about 3 clicks. So was that a part of your kind of upbringing in the hobby?
Yeah. So, I mean, back when I was a kid, I wasn't actually, honestly, I didn't know anyone. Like I was the only kid in my area that was, as far as I knew, that was super into animals.
Oh, sure.
And I was kind of doing things on my own. Of course, like you said, you'd search up reptile videos on the internet and snake bites comes up. That's kind of where I took a lot of inspiration from. Okay. Obviously, Brian is great. Stash baby.
It couldn't go unavoided.
What's up, Wes? What's up, Mike? A lot of cool guys in the chat already. Anyways, so when I was obviously, when I was growing up, I was watching Brian and I was watching a couple other creators and whatever that I don't remember off the top of my head, just random stuff that I'd find on the internet. But to be honest, I didn't really know the hobby was as big as it was. I didn't know reptile shows were a thing. I didn't know anything. I'd never been to a zoo. I kind of didn't really. I also grew up in the middle of the desert in California, so there wasn't much around other than herping, which I didn't know what people did. So back then I was just, kept a couple pets for the enjoyment of it, and spending time with them and whatever. And then once I got back into the hobby, I kind of started to, I guess, get more into the social side of things with meeting other people, connecting with other breeders, realizing how big the hobby actually is. And within the past, however long it's been, 5-6 years, it's exploded even beyond that. So.
Yeah. I feel like I first became familiar with you kind of right around the time when like TikTok started becoming a thing, and like you really like blew up on social media. Uncle Mike.
Hopefully you didn't see some of my first Mike. Mike. No. That's a whole friggin' story. We had a fire in our house, animal related. And we come home. That's another story we get into, I guess. Whole house was filled with smoke. And so anyways, the smoke alarms are going off. I changed the batteries in all of them, reset all of them. They're still chirping. I don't know what's going on. It drives us nuts. But I changed the batteries, Mike. I promise you I did.
Wow. Yeah, we can get into that if you want to. That's freaking terrifying, man. My God.
Yeah, my life flashed before my eyes that night.
It
was crazy. But yeah, anyways, back to what you had originally asked. I didn't really know a lot of what the hobby was up until a handful of years ago, and how big it really is, and all the events that people hold, and all the shows and all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of when I got into like the social side of things. When I first started posting on TikTok, it wasn't even animal content, and I've since deleted all of that content because I can't stand even listening to it anymore. It was just cringy, like, little kid stuff that I was like, oh, that got views on TikTok, I'm gonna do that. And then like my first, large portion of my following wasn't even reptile related. And like I said, all those videos are gone. So if you can find one, you won't. So so I started posting reptile content on TikTok, and then it was really, really slow at the beginning. But it was what I liked. I wasn't trying to push numbers. I wasn't trying to, get famous or whatever some people do for pushing social media views and whatever. I just liked the animals, and I wanted to share with other people that may have not seen them before. And like I said, at first it was really, really slow. A lot of basically what happens when you do something like that on a platform is, if you have an audience that's expecting a certain thing, and then you totally switch it up on them, your watch time goes down, your views go down, the reach goes down, everything
makes sense.
So you basically got to, I wasn't starting at ground zero, but I was starting kind of at the bottom of what I had reached there.
Okay.
And that started to get traction, and now years later, here we are.
Yeah. No, I mean, for better or worse, it's an unavoidable aspect of herpetoculture at this point, especially, if you want to keep pets, yeah, you don't need social media. It's not a necessity. But if you want to run a business to any degree within this industry at this point, unless you have like a name behind you for 30, 40 years, that's super well established. And even at that point, you have no choice but to do social media. I mean, do you think that's the case at this point?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, if you're trying to push any sort of, what are you doing? You want to say hi?
Hey.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to run a business, I mean, if you just want to keep animals as, a hobbyist, and you don't care about social media, then that's totally something you can do.
Yeah.
But especially in this day and age, if you're running a business and you're trying to make sales and you're trying to do all that sort of stuff, you absolutely have to be on social media. It's a non-negotiable. You can't do anything outside of it, pretty much. I mean, you can vend shows and whatever, but at this point, there's so many vendors at all these big shows. How are people going to know your logo versus the next guy's logo? They're going to see the next guy's logo on social media, and they're not going to know yours. So to a degree, when you're in person and you're at a show, your animals will speak for themselves. And if you produce good stuff, then great. Sure. But that doesn't mean that if you had the social media to begin with, in combination with ethically good produced quality animals, that your sales wouldn't be better, Yeah. They absolutely would. The more people that know you have a certain species that you're breeding or whatever, the way better off you'll be. And that's just how it is now.
Sure. Was that something that was on your mind up front when you were getting back into the hobby, or is that something that kind of just became more apparent over time to you?
Yeah, it was something that became more apparent over time for sure. Okay. I wasn't getting back into it to become a breeder. I wasn't trying to push a logo or a brand or anything like that. I just wanted to share what I was doing. I mean, I had a handful of electric blue day geckos and some, different Phelsuma species at the time, and a couple snakes and random stuff that I was keeping back then. Not a single monitor at that point yet. That was like another awakening for me. But at the time I was just keeping pets that I enjoyed. I did keep a couple pairs of electric blue day geckos just because I thought it would be cool to produce them. The babies were so tiny, and I loved the color. And at the time, you can go on MORPH Market now and find them everywhere. But at the time, I had seen this like seemingly mythical little bright blue gecko.
Yeah.
And I was having a hard time trying to track them down. I mean, in the day and age of social media, I thought I would have been able to get on Instagram or whatever and search up a hashtag or whatever and find breeders. And I couldn't. At the time, I literally went searching like the internet, and I found an email of a guy that at least had bred them in the past. So I emailed him to see if he still was breeding them, and he was. So I bought a handful of them. And so at the time, electric blues were really hard to get a hold of, at least seemingly to me. Maybe they weren't, maybe, for people that were more connected in the hobby at the time. But that's kind of what reignited the passion back into the hobby. So,
okay.
But yeah, at the time I wasn't going into it to be a breeder or anything like that. Of course, I've always thought about it in a way that's like, okay, if I can make my hobbies, my passions into a job, that's the dream life, right?
Sure, of course.
I don't think I really started taking that seriously up until probably a few years ago.
Okay.
So
was there something in particular that kind of flipped that switch for you where you're like, all right, let me really, dive deep into this? Or was it kind of a natural progression and then you just happened to hit that point a few years ago?
Yeah, I think it was kind of more of a progression. I realized, and I'm still learning, but back then I was learning a lot about, how the market acts and what sells, what doesn't, what sells when there's, no money moving through the economy, what sells when there's a lot of money moving through the economy.
Yeah.
What will always be, difficult to get, low supply, high demand, or seemingly what produces 1 million babies a year, and how do those, I was just doing market research.
Sure.
And so I would look into the genuses that I enjoyed, because, at the end of the day, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, then there's no point in doing it.
Yeah, might as well work a day job at that point.
Right. So I was looking into the genuses that I enjoyed, and just kind of spiraled from there.
So that's interesting. I kind of want to dig into this a little bit. I feel like I can't say I've ever actually heard somebody say, getting into figuring out a business model in reptiles, I was doing market research. But that's what anyone does in any sort of business in the real world, is doing market research. So, like, what were some of the trends that you were noticing throughout the market, and maybe even down to like kind of different species or kind of classifications of reptiles?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, like I said, of course you have to, at least it's really important to me, to work with species that I enjoy. It's not about the money for me. It's one of those things where it's like, I would do it anyways, but if I can turn it into something that also, keeps the lights on, and, I'm not looking to get rich off of it. And I won't. A lot of people don't, 99.9% of people don't.
Yeah.
But if I can be one of the guys that, does well enough to put food on the table and keep the lights on and live, a free life doing what I love, great. But when you're looking at least this is what I did when I was looking at species that I was interested in at the time, I was looking at a lot of geckos, because I was like, okay, I can keep a lot of them in a smaller space.
Yeah.
Not small, but smaller than,
right.
8-day geckos is going to be a lot smaller of a space than 8 lace monitors. Tell you that.
No question.
But, so I was looking at it from what potential profit could you make out of X amount of square footage in a room?
Yeah.
And not because that was the driver, but because that was the reality of it, I think.
Sure.
If you're going to dedicate X amount of square footage of your house, or you're going to rent a facility, and all those sorts of things, you got to look at your upside, your downside, your sales versus, cost of doing business and all that sort of stuff. Because what we do isn't cheap either.
No.
There's a lot of things that we got to do. There's a lot of overhead, even if you're running it out of your house. If you're not running it out of your house and you have a facility or a brick and mortar shop location that's open to the public, your overhead is usually crazy.
For sure.
So there was a lot of different factors and considerations that I was kind of looking into. And at the time I was living in California. We're in Tennessee now.
Okay.
But I found like 1,000 square foot office space, and I was like, okay, at the time I was also still living at home with my parents. Mm-hmm. So I needed to get some sort of space outside of my parents' house that was not going to limit the amount of space that I could have. Because I had my bedroom, right? But my mom was like, all right, you could do whatever you want. You can get whatever you want, but it has to stay in that room.
Yeah.
And it was a 10 by 10 room with a queen size bed in it and 2 dressers and a desk. Yeah. So I was like, there's not much I can really do with this. So I ended up getting an office space in California. And that was great in that it allowed me to expand. But looking back at it, if you're looking at it from a business perspective, I lost money. I wasn't selling more than I was spending.
Sure.
And back then I didn't have the knowledge that I do now in, if I had that same square footage and I had that same rent payment and, commercial, business insurance and all that sort of stuff that I was spending monthly, feeders, electricity, all the stuff that goes into running a shop.
Yeah.
And it was private. It wasn't open to the public. But if I didn't have, or if I had the knowledge that I do now that I, could apply back then, I would have done better. But it's just one of those things that you live and you learn.
Of course.
But yeah, I was looking at like what happened. Oh, I was looking at different species that I enjoyed. Like at the time, I was doing a lot of day geckos, and I was like, okay, what is hard to get? Because the day geckos are one of those things that, like, if you keep them happy and healthy, they produce quite a bit.
Okay.
I mean, the electric blues, when I was, I had however many pairs of those, 5, 6 pairs at a time. I was getting 2 eggs per female every 2-3 weeks in like their hot, high production season.
Wow.
And at the time I was getting a lot of sales because electric blues were hard to get. I was selling them at, double what they cost now. And it was great. And it was, I was basically estimating it. Okay, they don't cost very much to feed. Their insects are tiny. They don't eat very much of them. And then the rest of it is Pangea or Apache or something that's formulated you buy in bulk. So I'm doing monitors now. That's a little bit different, but yeah, just a little bit. But I think that, if someone's looking to get into it and take it seriously as a business, and I don't speak as if I know all the answers. I just from my own experience, because I'm still learning about it every single day. I mean, I'm 25 years old. I'm not an expert, but it's look at what you enjoy. Think about it from the perspective of, okay, if I pour X amount of dollars into this and that's what I want to do, then make sure that it's something that you're going to enjoy. Because I did this a lot too. I would get species that I thought I would enjoy and I didn't, or, I just didn't enjoy working with them, or the amount of space they took up wasn't something that I was super comfortable with, or whatever it was. And I would buy those animals with the anticipation of keeping them forever and breeding them. And then I would realize that it wasn't for me and I would sell them. And obviously you recoup some of your money back, but not always all of it.
Right.
So if you're looking at it from a business perspective, business point of view, you got to think about, okay, well, say you buy $2,000 worth of animals and then you realize they're not for you and you sell them and you recoup, $1,500 from it. You lost $500 for nothing.
Right.
Those could have been feeders. That could have been your electric bill, whatever it is.
Sure.
So if you're going into it, make sure that they're species that you enjoy. And that's the most important part at the end of the day. You can get into like supply demand, like with, day geckos, it's high volume, high production, low price point.
Yeah.
And that's great. And that's a market. That's another thing we can talk about too. But in contrast to that, like the lace monitors that I just got my first clutch from.
Congratulations.
Very low. Thank you. Yeah, we could talk about that a little bit too.
100%.
But it's like those, are very low production, maybe a couple clutches a year. If you're keeping your female healthy, and because obviously you don't want to burn her out either.
Sure.
2, maybe 3 clutches a year. Some people have pushed more than that, but I personally won't. I think I'll probably stick my females at 2 clutches a year. Because in the wild, naturally they lay 1 clutch a year. So 2 is already like, pushing it a little bit. But I've heard of people getting 4, 5, 6 clutches a year out of them. But in contrast of monitors to day geckos, you're dealing with low volume, stupid long incubation period for the larger monitors. The smaller ones, it's usually like 100 days or so, but some of the larger ones can go 200 to 300 days. Versus a day gecko hatches in 2 months, 60 days, or 90. So, it's at the end of the day, do what you enjoy. The only thing that I would say, like, if you're looking to turn it into a business and you're looking to put more captive bred animals on the market, don't do something that's so saturated. Like, we don't need more ball pythons. We don't need more leopard geckos. We don't need more crested geckos. We don't need more Savannah monitors, Nile monitors. I mean, sure, maybe 1, 2, 3 people dedicated to breeding those projects, captive bred versus wild caught, to reduce the stress of the wild caught ones coming in. Great. But Savannah's also laid big clutches generally. They're an African monitor.
Yeah.
And so it's like you see all these animals that end up in, bad homes, bad situations, and you want to like breed responsibly to make sure that these animals aren't ending up in bad spots, but also doing something that you enjoy and that you know, have the potential to make a living off of and feel comfortable, have the amount of time to dedicate to them properly, because certain species take more care, more work than others. So it's like finding that balance of something that it kind of works. It's like a perfect storm working for what your intentions are. Satisfying the market, satisfying your lifestyle, and making sure that the animals are benefiting at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenging balance to try to hit. You know, I've been through fucking many different iterations of what my collection has looked like.
We all have.
Yeah, sure. And you know, and I think some people try to stigmatize, like, you know, the people online will like shame someone. Oh, you got this animal and then you're selling it. It's like, okay, well, was that, for one, I guess, was that the goal?
Right.
Okay. And then two, how did you go about rehoming these animals? Did you just sell them to the first person who gave you money, or did you make sure that they were going to somebody who actually cares about what they're doing with them? Because the way that I look at it, if I have a side project that I, you know, thought I'd be really interested in, they're fun, I've enjoyed keeping them, but I kind of look at my collection as a whole. And then not only that, but then the business standpoint, I'm like, man, I'm not putting the effort into these as I am my scrub pythons or whatever. Let's move these on to somebody who that may be their priority species.
Right.
And now that's going to be, you know, front of their mind, and the way that they take care of their animals. The way that I look at it, that's actually potentially the better situation for those animals.
Yep.
So, you know, I guess maybe then the advice would be, if you're getting a new species trying to, you know, expand your horizons, maybe start with like 1 or 2. Like, don't get like 20 of something you don't know if you're gonna enjoy yet or not. You know, be reasonable about it. But yeah, you know, I think definitely the stigmatization is something I very much disagree with, as far as that that kind of narrative within some aspects of the community of like, if you get an animal, you need to have it for its entire life. Like,
right.
I mean, is that realistic in a situation of somebody who has a collection of more than maybe 5 to 10 animals? Like, I don't know.
You gonna say that about an Aldabra tortoise? You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
yeah, there's certain animals, like, if you know what you're getting yourself into, if you're getting an Aldabra tortoise or a crocodile or a croc monitor or something like that, like, yeah, you know, I'd hope that this is not like I'll give this a shot and see if I like it kind of endeavor.
Right.
You know,
well, and like you said, like the stigma around people, you know, getting into animals and then selling them and whatever, and then people going like, oh, you know, that's like, what are you doing, bro, or whatever. I can see some parts of it, you know, if someone's just going through and cycling through animals and cycling through animals, not caring about where those animals end up, bad, right? But you also got to take into consideration, like you said, I mean, if you genuinely get into a species that you think you're going to enjoy, and then it just turns out they're not for you, and you care about where they go and make sure they end up in the hands of someone that, you know, will enjoy them. And like you said, that's honestly the better route. And some, like, it's a case-by-case situation, and there's so many different business models that, you know, I know a bunch of people that buy a bunch of captive bred babies from people at wholesale, and they'll have them on their table at the super shows or whatever it is. Like, and I don't think that's inherently wrong.
No.
Like, some people will demonize those people as saying like, oh, you know, you shouldn't be doing that. But at the end of the day, like, how else are you going to get your reptiles, right? Like, if everyone went to the same breeder that, you know, for a species, first of all, they might not know a breeder. They might not know multiple breeders for different bloodlines, whatever. Some stuff comes in wild caught and treated, and like, there's so many different places that all these animals come from. And if we didn't have that kind of wholesale side of things, the distribution would be nowhere near what it actually is.
Oh, sure.
And it would be so much harder to get so many of the different species that are actually in the hobby.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, what a lot of people don't realize, especially anyone who's present on social media or whatever, a lot of reptile breeders want no part of that.
Yep.
You know, they want to, you know, and most of these people probably have a day job as well, have a family or whatever it may be. They want to take care of their animals, enjoy it, and not have to deal with the forward-facing marketing aspect of it at all. So what's their option? Their option is to wholesale to somebody.
Yep.
And that's how most businesses in the world work. You're not buying a bottle of Coca-Cola from Coca-Cola.
Right.
That thing is passed through 3 or 4 hands before it gets to you, you know, as is with most things. And, you know, there are parallels you can draw between any old commodity and a reptile. And it's like, all right, how much do you want to think of a reptile as a commodity? Well, you know, when you're looking at it from a business standpoint, you have to look at it very like matter of fact in that way. That doesn't mean that you have to treat them like books or, you know, food, you know, whatever it may be. But there's a very real aspect of this where it is a business and it needs to be run as such in order to continue. Because if you, like you said, if you're okay, cool, I'm producing these animals, whatnot, my overhead is shit, I have no fiscal discipline. Oh, well, all right, now I'm out of business.
Right.
And now the animals are in a much worse position than they would have been maybe if you had taken it a little bit more seriously, like it was a business.
Right.
But
Well, that's not like that's. I feel like a lot of people in the reptile world, and maybe this is a little bit controversial of something to say, so forgive me if it is. But like, especially when you're kind of in the shoes of people like us who are trying to push ourselves into being full-time breeders, and like you just really have to live in reality, right? Like you can't, not everything can be emotional, not everything can be practical either. But finding the balance between you know, your heart for the animals and making sure that they're ending up in good homes. You know, you're sending whatever it is, right? Like you're sending care sheets with your babies to their new homes just to make sure, okay, you know, the new owner's got everything in writing, regardless of how much research they've done, or like there's that kind of emotional side of it, right? And moral side of it, honestly, ethics and all that sort of stuff. You got to make sure you're in good standing with those things, but also you need to live in reality. You know, if you have a bunch of animals that aren't selling for whatever reason, and someone comes in and goes, hey, I'll buy them at wholesale, all 10 of them or whatever. And you think about it, you're like, okay, as long as, you know, that person who wants to resell them is, you know, of good moral and ethical standing.
Yeah.
Why not? Right. You know, you held on to them for X amount of months and your overhead's going up because you're paying electricity and water and food and all that sort of stuff. And someone comes in and wants to wholesale them, then that's the reality of it. So it's just kind of one of those things that like you got to balance the emotional side of it with the realistic side of actually running a business. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, not at all. Yeah, you know, this day and age, it doesn't take too long to really vet somebody.
Yep.
You know, for the better, honestly. So, you know, if somebody's reaching out to you like, hey, you know, I want to buy that clutch out, take 15 minutes and you're going to get a pretty good idea of whether this person is going to take good care of these animals or, you know, care for them or not, you know.
Exactly.
See how many mutual friends you have on Facebook, scroll through their page, see what they're posting, etc. And if it's someone with a blank profile or whatever, it's like, all right, this is probably not the kind of person I want to be dealing with. You know, or like you're you know, anyone's around this industry long enough, you're gonna hear the names of people you don't want to deal with.
Right.
Generally speaking, you know, and obviously we don't need to say any names, but there are plenty of people that fall into that category, and then you just don't do business with them.
Yeah, simple as that.
Crazy. So
yeah, that easy.
Yeah, but it's interesting to see the tides kind of changing in how people approach the reptile business, because even as recently as like 15 years ago, I remember when I was first learning about everything and trying to figure out what this business even is, the yardstick was how many whatever are you producing.
Right.
Like reptile industries, they are producing, 6 figures of reptiles a year out of their facility. They're doing, you got Reptiles by Mac, you got geckos, etc. These huge facilities, BHB, kind of before Brian decided to switch gears, running tens of thousands of animals through that facility a year. That was the mark of success. Was how many rows of freedom breeders do you have in your facility? And I mean, I think it's not really in a controversial take at this point. I think that is almost completely gone away, and thank God for the sake of the animals. That those, and this is not to necessarily like talk badly about these pioneers of our industry. They're the reason why we're here today, but things evolve for a reason, and I feel like now what is being, what the yardstick is like, what are the quality of your animals? What are the quality of the service you can provide to your customers?
Yep.
How well do you present yourself as the seller, the person doing business? And I think that for the sake of the animals, the sake of new people who are getting into the hobby and the longevity of it, man, I think it's really, I'm glad it's going this direction.
Yeah, no, me too. It's like you said, you can't knock the pioneers of the industry. That's how it was however long ago. But I love that it's kind of turned into the direction of, what are the morals and the ethics behind your business, and how you treat your breeders, how you raise your babies, the quality of genetics that you source and produce. Are you inbreeding like crazy? Are you outcrossing? What are you doing? And I think those are all really good questions to have when you're looking to buy from a breeder. And I think that as someone who wants to be a breeder, or sorry, that I'm about to go unplug that thing.
If you need to, I can.
But yeah, no, it's really, really good. And I think that at the end of the day, if you're looking to kind of take that path for yourself, if you're a good person, you're good to other people, you're good to your animals.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the baseline of, business will come, right? If you take care of people and you care about other people and you care about your animals and you have no problem displaying how you care for them, why you do it the way you do, I think that you'll go really far, regardless of what you're breeding.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that coupled with the proper social media presence is probably, what you gotta be doing these days.
Absolutely.
So from like a practical standpoint, what?
1 second, I'm gonna go unplug that thing.
No worries.
Give me like 30 seconds.
You got it. All right. While Mason fixes some of this audio in the background. Thank you to everybody who is tuned in right now to the show. The live chats are popping. Appreciate everybody. Calvin, I'm not sure if you're still here, but definitely I will bring this up at some point because I have no idea what this means, and it sounds pretty funny. So that's definitely on the agenda. But yeah, no, I'm very much a fan of the direction that the hobby is going. And, I think people like Mason and this newer generation are going to be integral in really making sure that is the kind of status quo going forward. I don't think anyone really is kind of trying to get into the mass production thing anymore. And frankly, it's for the best. All right. How's it going over there? Yeah, we got it.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. So I guess, I feel like you're one of the better people who can speak on this. the way that the industry is going these days, what amount of social media presence does someone need to have? What platforms you need to be on? You know, kind of tell us exactly what that really needs to look like for someone to really be thriving.
Yeah, I mean, this is just my opinion. I think Instagram is probably the most relevant.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of people go in our industry to look for a breeder, or to, you know, if you're trying to kind of vet a breeder to see if there's someone that's good to buy from, you'll go to their Instagram and look at the photos that they posted of their breeders and their, you know, offspring and all that sort of stuff. So I think Instagram is probably the most important platform.
Okay.
The fastest for growth, TikTok.
Even
I still think that's the case. Is if you want to get your name out there quickly, I think TikTok is the way to do it.
Okay.
Reels can be good too. Just you have to be really particular about, and this goes for really any social platform. You have to kind of, you know, formulate your videos in a way that you know is going to do well. It's going to reach people outside of the hobby. It's going to reach people outside of your following. You know, it's got a good hook. You know, there's certain things that are on the screen constantly, whether it be, you know, text to speech or, you know, some sort of camera movement or something. A lot of it is behind the scenes in the editing process. If you can keep the you know, viewer, if you can keep their attention for at least half the video, you're doing good.
Okay.
If you're kind of averaging a watch time of like, you know, at least 50% higher, 30% even, it kind of depends. But the most important things are watch time and your hook, and making sure that, you know, you get people's attention right away within the first 2 seconds of the video, kind of pull them in somehow, say something crazy, or, you know, maybe it's a quick camera movement. But, you know, that can kind of apply to any platform. YouTube's a little bit different because it's long form. So, and there's ways to do that too. You know, a little highlight reel of the video at the beginning, titled, you know, make sure your thumbnail's really good. All that sort of stuff too. And so anyways, back to what you originally asked. I think Instagram is most relevant. Facebook, I feel like that's less used amongst our generation.
For sure.
But there's still a lot of opportunity on Facebook, so I don't think we should dismiss it.
Yeah.
So, and now Instagram and Facebook are basically the same thing. They just look different. And so Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube are like the big ones. You should be on all of them, frankly, in my opinion. And I'm not always great about taking my own advice. So, I, you know, like on YouTube, I probably haven't posted in 2 years, but that's going to change within the next month or so.
Okay.
I'll be coming back. So, it's, you know, be as visible in as many places as possible. Because, you know, if someone has Instagram but doesn't have TikTok, then you just being on TikTok is already limiting your potential customer pool. So kind of put yourself all over the place. But that being said, it's about quality content and consistency, not really quantity anymore. It kind of used to be that way, especially on TikTok. If you posted 10 videos a day, and to be fair, if you're still like, if you can push out quantity with it still being high quality and consistent, then great. Then that's like the perfect storm for social media growth. But the algorithms, from what I can tell now, care more so about the quality of the content and how long people watch it for than they do about how often you're posting. So if you're posting, you know, 5 times a week, but it's random, from what I've gathered, and other creators might disagree with this. You know, some people probably know better than I do. You posting 1, 2, 3 really good videos a week consistently on the same days, whatever. So your audience kind of knows when to expect them, is better than posting 5, 7 crappy, quick videos a week.
Okay.
But if you can push out 7 high quality videos a week, great. You're posting every single day on 4 different platforms. Amazing, you know? But consistency is the biggest thing, because if you are consistent for a month and then you take 2 months off and you try to come back, your engagement will be shot and you'll have to rebuild it. So if you know before you start, you're like, okay, you know, posting every single day might not be feasible for me, but I can commit to twice a week. Then just start by doing twice a week.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So I don't know if this is going to be interesting to people who are watching. This is very interesting to me, because I feel like this is the one area that I like half-ass as hard as I possibly can. So, and I just, you know I need to be better at it. And honestly, part of like, I'm trying to reduce my collection a little bit is to be able to have more time to actually put into the, you know, promoting myself the proper way. So when you are,
it's a lot of work.
It really is. Yeah. You know, I post 5 days a week, but like, I don't put a whole lot of effort into it. As far as like an individual reel, like my reels for, you know, people probably have seen them. It's just like a 15-second video of a snake with a song over it.
Here's the thing though. If that works for you, and that's kind of what, like when people see those kinds of videos, they associate that with you. That's also a good thing. That doesn't mean necessarily that's low quality. You know what I mean? Yeah. Some people go really, really extravagant with their videos, and that's kind of how I was to start. Yeah. You know, lots of different camera angles, lots of, you know, different sound effects and speed. And like my wife is really, really good at that.
Those videos, like the fucking hogness videos.
She's the funny one. I'm the boring one. But yeah, no.
Like, I'll never do that, but my gosh, kudos.
I couldn't either. Awesome. Like she literally, like the way her brain works makes this like perfect storm of like brain rot for her videos.
Yeah, how do you combine 50 memes into a 40-second reel? Like,
she does it. I don't know how, but
crazy.
She like, you know, I had more Instagram followers than she did, obviously, when we first started dating. She passed me quick. Like, she hasn't posted in a while, but she literally had people lined up waiting to watch her video, and the comment section would be full of like, you know, shut up, my show's on, or babe, wake up, you know, Jordy just posted a new video, or, you know, those kind of comments. And it was a great way to get people who might not be in our, you know, industry or our space to watch hognose snakes eat a mouse. You know what I mean? Like, something that would totally not be interesting to a random person, or maybe it would be, but they would never see it because the algorithm would never show it to them. Right. Her content kind of bridged that gap. And so it's really important, if you're trying to reach as many people as possible, to like think about it from the you know, the perspective of a person that's not in our field. What would they find interesting? Or how do you take something that is common or maybe mundane in our industry and make it interesting to somebody else? Yeah. So that's a big mindset that you kind of have to, if you're trying to really push social media growth, you have to think about it in that, okay, if this reaches just the reptile industry or my little corner of the reptile industry, I can only grow so much, right? So if I can reach different people outside of the industry, or maybe in different niches of the industry, then you're automatically going to grow faster. Yeah, I feel like that's the main thing that I'm slacking on right now, is like, I can't imagine I have too much super casual engagement on my videos, or like totally non-reptile people. Like I feel like with Instagram, I just got lucky that I started my Instagram like way before reptile Instagram really took off, like 2013. And back when it was chronological timeline, the good old days. And I know. But like my growth has been like very, very slightly trending up over the course of the last 12 years. I feel you. And and you know, with that said, I haven't put a shit ton of effort into it, so I'm kind of, it's the result of what I've put in. But I guess, you know, from like a
again, kind of back to like an ethical standpoint, you know, the biggest critique of a lot of reptile influencers, to use that term, you know, is the use of sensationalism, clickbait, etc. So how do you personally go about bridging the gap between exploitation? Not saying that you would do that, but like that's the extreme end of what this looks like.
Right.
Is exploitation. We know who we're talking about.
Yep.
And so boring, you're never going to get a new person in the, you know, to click that video, because it's not even probably gonna hit their algorithm to begin with, frankly.
Right.
So how do you go about kind of putting the pieces together for this video where you're going to reach that casual audience, it's going to hit their algorithm, but you're not doing it at the expense of the animals?
Yeah, so that was something when I first kind of like realized like, oh, you know, this is kind of gaining traction as far as the social media aspect of it. That's one thing that I told myself from the very beginning. Like, you know, like you said, we know who those people are. Yeah. There's plenty of them that will exploit or sensationalize the animals, and that's not at all what I stand for. I think it's awful. Yeah. And so what my thought process is, okay, if I can take something that I would be doing anyways and make it interesting to somebody else, then that's what, I mean, I think my first like animal video was me feeding an electric blue day gecko crickets. I think that was the first one. And I think I remember it doing pretty good. I think it got like, you know, a few 100,000 views on TikTok, or maybe a couple million or something like that. Mm-hmm. And basically what I would do is I like to sensationalize. It doesn't need to be at the expense of the animal. The animal doesn't need to be the, you know, focal point to get somebody's attention, if you really think about it. Like that, you know, obviously that's what you're showing, right? But so what I would do is I would do relatively quick camera movements, transitions, not the cheesy ones, because that is such a like instant way to get someone to swipe. But, you know, pan in, pan out, zoom quickly, swipe to the left, swipe to the right, whatever it would be. But I would get somebody's attention by constantly having something stimulating on the screen, even if I was doing something boring. Like a good example would be like, you know, building an enclosure. Those were some of my best performing videos. And what I would do is speed it up to where there's constantly something happening quickly. I would put some sort of background music behind, or I would do a voiceover explaining what I was doing. I would even go to avoid having my voice break. Like if I was in between sentences or something, I would like merge those two. So your audio clips are sitting like this on the timeline in your editing process. They're sitting like this or whatever. I would slightly overlap them to where this one starts as soon as this one finishes, so there's no gap. I would cut out dead words, you know, whatever. And then so there's constantly someone explaining something about what's going on and why I'm doing it that way. I did another one where there was, you know, I was feeding some Uroplatus fimbriatus, and that video went really viral. That one across all platforms, I think, did like tens of millions of views. And it was, you know, me, the first 3 seconds, I think, is what really reeled people in. It was just me feeding a leaf-tailed gecko some crickets at the end of the day. That's what the concept was. Yeah. But my first, you know, 3 seconds was, okay, first second is quick swipe of me holding a cricket bag in front of the screen, from the side of the screen quickly. It quickly transitions to, you know, seeing the crickets in a cup, or what, I forgot exactly what it was. And then it was you know, second number 3 was my hand panning, you know, moving this way, rotating in front of the camera to put the leaf-tailed gecko's head in the center. And then it did a little head tilt, and then you can see the glass orb like eye So that was like the first 3 seconds of the video. And then my like hook was, if you've got little creepy alien eyeballs staring at you, waiting for food, what do? You feed them. And that's what, and then I went into, they eat crickets and I'm dusting them with calcium and vitamins, supplementation, whatever, and showing the proper process of how to feed them, and then showing me actually dumping the crickets in to feed them, explaining the lights are on, they're not going to eat right now, but the lights are about to go off, they're nocturnal, they're going to eat at night. And it was like I forgot how long it was, maybe a 45-50 second video. And it did really well because you had that hook at the beginning. But it's also like there's so many different styles of content. Like Armin Herptime, he's really good at making like that ASMR content that people love just to watch and relax. It's relaxing, right? It's not overstimulating, constantly something going on.
Yeah.
And he does really well with that sort of thing. And you know, it's pick a style that you like and kind of stick with it. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then when it comes to YouTube, obviously you're going to have a completely different, or maybe not, but at least the way that I see it, you know, obviously completely different format. You know, you're doing long form videos. What's like the philosophy you apply to that?
Yeah. So like I said, on my own channel, I haven't posted in a long time, but I'll be coming back soon. And, but in the meantime, I also do freelance editing. So I did a lot of work and still am doing a lot of work for other creators, and it's mostly YouTube videos. So unless there was like a specific style that they already built a following based off of, that was kind of important to stick to. Otherwise, I made it like super fast paced, because YouTube almost has to be like, people's attention spans because of short form content has gotten so short. So if people don't have something going on or anticipation of something coming up next, they're just going to swipe away. Your thumbnail is everything. Your title is everything. If people like, if you don't have a good thumbnail and people don't click on the video to begin with and they don't watch it, then, you know, that's the whole, you have to get them to click on the video first. And then like what a lot of, especially the people in the reptile world, what they do, and what I've implemented in a handful of my clients' videos is, you know, some sort of buildup of music in the beginning portion, segmented clips of some of the highlights of the video. Say you're doing a 20-minute video, right? You want someone to watch it all the way through. Put segmented clips of like some of the different topics that you hit or something, or different clips of snakes or whatever it is. Do a little highlight reel at the beginning with the music building up, and then boom, title screen, and then it fades into what's up, guys, you know, whatever. Then the video starts there, and then the music fades out. You have this, you know, upbeat music, and it's a highlight reel, and okay, that's going to happen in the video. That's going to happen in the video. That's going to happen in the video. But that third thing might happen at the 18-minute mark, you know? So people want to see that thing, and so they'll either skip through or they'll watch it. But it has to be stimulating. It has to be, some people can get away with, you know, more relaxed content. And again, it's one of those things. It's like, if you have a style, stick to it. If it works well for you, no reason to change it. Or if that's just your vibe, that's the vibe you want to give off. It might take you longer to build, or maybe it won't. Maybe you'll have a video that goes viral on day 4, or maybe you have a video that goes viral on day 400. But, you know, stick to a style that you like and run with it if that's important to you. Otherwise, I think the best thing, what's happening right now, because it changes all the time, like algorithms change and what people want changes and all that sort of stuff. But generally speaking, right now, fast paced is the way it has to be. Because watch time on every platform is the most important, you know, metric that you can get from a video. And if you have good watch time, then the algorithm takes your video and snowballs it to 10,000 other people, whatever it is. I don't know the actual number, but it has good watch time. People are enjoying it. They're interacting with it. That's another big thing. Engagement, people liking the video, people commenting on the video. The more engagement and the more watch time that something has, the algorithm takes it and throws it to a million other people.
Yeah.
So if you can hook them in, keep them there for at least half the video, you'll probably have something that goes viral.
Okay.
Or at least does better. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, that's kind of I've reached this point with my YouTube channel where I'm like, I wanted to lay a good foundation of videos that I kind of felt were more like kind of the antithesis of what you've been saying, and not for any particular reason, but honestly, I wanted videos on there where, like, if somebody asked me a question about this locality of scrub python, can link them that video.
Exactly.
Forever. This like kind of evergreen content that's essentially, not exclusively this, but part of like an educational / sales kind of like, highlight reel I can send people to.
No, that's great too.
Because I just hit the monetization recently, and I'm like,
that's great.
Right, now that I'm here, let's kind of make the most of this. Because I had a video recently, like pop, relatively speaking, to what I normally do. Like, it's my first video that got over 10K. And it's like, it's just, I mean, I was at Socrates' place in South Florida, a bunch of designer chondros and emeralds and stuff like that.
I saw that video.
Like, that's the type of stuff that's the thumbnail is like a black and blue chondro. I'm like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense that this is the video that popped like that.
Yeah.
Lengthwise, what's the ideal? Because I when I was first getting into it, I was like, all right, let's go to all of the top YouTubers' pages and see what they did. And I'm like, this is kind of all over the place. It's anywhere between like 6 minutes and 40 minutes, or like, Dave Kaufman, 3 fucking hours or whatever. So I was like, all right, like, this doesn't help much. What does it seem like is the length of a video these days that hits the best in the algorithm?
So at least from what I understand, and I could be wrong on this, but from what I understand, it's almost personal preference.
Okay.
If you can, so a video, at least on YouTube, I think has to be at least 5 minutes long to monetize, but it has to be at least 8 minutes long to monetize better. Like, I think it's about, running ads during the actual video, or I forget exactly what it is, but 8 minutes is like the mark that you have to hit if you want full monetization on the video.
Roll ads will hit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's why. I could be wrong on that. But I think that's why. So 8 minutes is like, if you want to monetize the video to your fullest potential, then you have to at least be 8 minutes, but you can still monetize it at 5. But, so a lot of creators, because they want to monetize it, will at least hit that 5 minute mark. 8 minutes better. But if you can, so the longer the videos are, if you can keep someone's attention during that time, or at least for half of it, or 2/3 of it, or whatever it is, then that will do better. But if it doesn't keep the viewer's attention, it will do worse because it's longer. So, because it's all about the watch time again. So if you have a video that's 20 minutes long and you can get people to watch at least 10 minutes of it, you're golden. But if it's more on the boring side, or whatever, people click off for whatever reason at the 3 minute mark, then you'll have a 15% watch time and your viewer retention is going to be awful. And so then the algorithm will take that and be like, okay, well, people, to put it stone cold from the algorithm's perspective, if people aren't enjoying it, or seemingly to the algorithm not enjoying it, it won't push it to other people, or it will, but at a much slower rate. So if you can keep people's attention for 20 minutes or 30 or 40 or whatever, awesome. That's the best case scenario for you. Because I think, and again, could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure the longer videos are and the more ads that you can roll through them, also the more monetization will result from it.
Okay.
So it's kind of personal preference and, different editing styles and whatever. So basically it's it's make it as long as you can that's reasonable and will still keep people engaged.
Got it.
That's kind of like the thought process.
Okay. I honestly, I wanted to talk about this at the end. We just kind of got into all that. So I have a couple more questions. We're going to talk about reptiles tonight. I promise.
Yes.
So the last two things are Instagram related primarily. So on Instagram, is there really any virtue to the post that is just a picture these days, or do you really need to be reels?
Reels.
Yeah.
To put it simply. I think Instagram maybe pushes carousels. So if you're posting multiple pictures, because I remember there was a thing about people posting a carousel of multiple pictures and then having an audio on it that Instagram liked. I remember that. But generally speaking, they push reels. And there was a portion of which this was amazing, but they're not doing it anymore. But over the last handful of months, there was something called trial reels. Some people had access to it, some people didn't. I think you had to meet certain qualifications to get access to it. But basically what trial reels were is you could post a reel and it would specifically not show it to your audience. It would snowball it and throw it to everybody else. So they're not doing it anymore, which sucks. But so basically as a creator, you could use trial reels and you could say, okay, I already posted this video that did well. And if I post it as a trial reel, it's not going to show it to anybody that has already seen it. So basically what you would be doing is you would be taking an already viral concept and showing it to more people that didn't already watch it. So that's what I did. And I didn't use it as much as I should have because I kind of started using it at the butt end of it when it was going away. But with the trial reels, it's like I took a video that did however many millions of views, 10, 20, 30 million views on Instagram, which is stupid. And I posted it as a trial reel and it got another 6 or 8 million views on the same video, but it didn't show it to anyone that saw it before.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So it's 6 or 8 million new people that have the opportunity to follow the account that they didn't know existed.
Yeah.
But that being said, regular reels kind of have a similar effect too for new content. Not that it doesn't show it to your own following, because obviously it does. But if you take it, say you take a engaging video and you post it and it starts to do well, then because it's a reel and Instagram and TikTok and all the different social media platforms are trying to push short form content, they're going to try to push it better and better and better, as long as it has good watch time. Again, that's like the number one thing about everything to be, growing on social media. And it doesn't even need to be of you like wanting to be an influencer. For the record, I hate that word. I prefer normal guy who makes content. Yeah, just for the average breeder, if you want more people to know what your logo looks like and know who you are and what you stand for, if you post reels, that's the better way to do it. Again, aside from the carousel thing, I think that Instagram still likes that.
Okay.
The algorithm constantly changes. At first they wanted, funny, like 10-second videos, and now they want videos that are over a minute long. So it just depends.
Yeah. All right.
Not to say that you can't post one or the other, or that they only push one or the other. The algorithm just favors one over the other, and that changes constantly.
Sure. The last thing I'll ask on the social media thing is about stories. Do stories really matter that much when it comes to growth and whatnot, or how do you best utilize your stories? Not really.
Not really. I don't think, honestly, at all, for new growth, because well, that's not true, because there's certain ways that you can utilize stories to make it to where people see it more. And I don't have all the information on that. Truthfully,
Okay.
I should probably research it more. But if your story is something that is shareable, like it's content that people want to show other people, then that's a way to grow through stories. By people physically sending it to somebody else because it was something that they thought they should share. So, and it seems like, never mind, I'm not going to go into that. But it seems like, you know, that's kind of one of the only ways to grow on stories. Generally, everyone's story views are not even remotely close to the number of followers they have. It's always less.
Right, for sure.
Because generally your stories are only viewed by your following.
Right.
Again, unless it's something that for whatever reason reaches outside your following. So you can use it. It's just, I don't. You can post a location and then people can search a location and be like, oh, you know, your story popped up or whatever it is. So but realistically, how many people are searching a location and then looking through all the stories that were out there? You know what I mean?
Sure. So then what about using the stories to like maximally engage your current audience? Are there certain strategies to like, because to me, I'm like, all right, I'll put this in my story and I'm like, oh shoot, that's a lot of views. And then the next day put something else and I'm like, did it even go up?
Yep.
And like sometimes I'm like, all right, if I post this general thing, it gets a lot of views. And then other times shit is all over the fucking place. And I have no idea what to account for it.
Honestly, I question that too, because mine will be the same.
I don't feel so bad anymore.
Mine will be the same. Like one story will literally be thousands and thousands and thousands of views, and then one will be like 500. And I'm like, and relative to my following, right? You know, 92,000 or whatever it is. I question like, okay, why did only 500 people see that? Yeah. So I think some of the reasons why are frequency of using stories. I think the more you post stories, the better, because you don't want to be one of those that like posts 20, 30 stories a day, because then people get sick of it. And they'll click on your story and realize that there's a million tabs that they need to go through and they're just going to swipe away. Yeah. So, you know, like I usually do a couple stories a day, sometimes no stories. But that's just because I enjoy stories. I think it's like a fun way to like show people kind of what's happening in real time. Yeah. I just enjoy them. That's why I use them. I don't use them for any other reason. I mean, obviously, you know, show animals that have just hatched or whatever, to kind of build from the business side of things, like build the hype of like, I'm gonna have these available, you know what I mean? Jack said stories converting to DMs, I think, really locks that connection with your audience members and customers. That is true. I know that for a fact. That's where I was going to go with it too, is if your stories have something that people will engage with, then they typically do better. So whether that be polls or questions or have a clickable link on it, or doing a quiz, like using all those little functions that you see when you swipe up and, you know, when you post a story. If you have something that people will engage with, typically the stories will do better. Or asking a question that drives a lot of DMs, like Jack was saying. Makes sense. You know, connecting with the audience in some way. That's probably the best way to get good viewership on your stories, is if the people that are following you can interact with it in some way other than just viewing it. Yeah, makes sense. So sorry, all these answers are like super long-winded. I don't know if I'm like talking your ear off or not. No, I love it. But we definitely will get into some reptile talk, I promise you guys. So we're going to hit the commercial break real quick. So sit tight, everybody. We will be back in just a minute.
Sorry for the interruption, folks, but a quick word from our sponsors.
Hi, I'm Devin.
I'm Teresa, and we are Pragmotors.
We are based in Czech Republic, a small country in the middle of Europe.
We really love animals that revolve around multi-recessive projects, and one of our very favorites is Hypo. We're really looking forward to clutches that are coming this season, and some of those are Hypo Clown, DG Clown, Hypo DG Clown, and one of our all-time favorites, Hypo Puzzle.
Hope you enjoyed the next episode on Trap Talk, the greatest reptile network in the world.
If you guys want to see next level cutting edge ball python projects, please make sure you head over to their Instagram to follow all their amazing work, and head over to their website to see what they could possibly have available by heading over to progmorphs.com. Thank you again, Devin and Teresa, for bringing some of the biggest heat worldwide in the ball python game. If you want to be organized, if you want to be cutting edge in the ball python game, then you don't want to miss this. Shout out to today's sponsor, and that's Clutch, #1 ball python organization app in the game. No better place to start off than by using this app. Clutch is an organization app that helps you organize all your ball python projects. It also helps your peers and your fellow community members look at what you possibly have coming for the upcoming ball python season, what you have currently available on Morph Market. It's so awesome to be ahead of the game by using organization app like Clutch. Thank you so much, the entire Clutch team, amazing team over at Clutch. If I were you, I would head over to Clutch's Instagram account, and I would also head over to their website, try it out, see how it works for you. But especially if you're just now coming into this, before you build your reptile collection, I would do it organized, and I would do it with Clutch. Thank you, Clutch, for being so amazing. Excited to hear what Clutch has to bring in the near future. Cheers. One of the biggest growths we have in the reptile industry today are the rare species of reptiles that aren't worked with. That's right. That's why I went ahead and partnered up again with Brian Susan over at SUNDOWN Reptiles. Brian works with species such as kahua geckos, gargoyle geckos, all species of tree monitors. He works with abronia and many other cool species geckos that you can check out all on his website. Head over to sundownreptiles.com, see what he has available. Brian's one of the best doing it in the reptile industry today. He's been on the show multiple times, so make sure you check out all of Brian Susan's episodes on Trap Talk Reptile Network. But more importantly, for the highest quality of captive bred reptiles, make sure you head over to sundownreptiles.com and make sure you give him a follow on Instagram. Thank you again, Brian Susan over at SUNDOWN Reptiles. One of the things I love about being a part of the reptile industry is all the learning, okay? Learning can be fun, and I can prove that to you. Thank you so much to today's sponsor, it's Gary Scavino over at gs.reptiles. I highly recommend you head over to his YouTube channel, follow all this man's content when it comes to learning about rare species of snakes you could be keeping in the hobby, and also just finding out how easy a lot of these rare species of snakes are to keep in general. So thank you so much, Gary Scavino of GS Reptiles. Again, head over to his YouTube channel. Also head over to his Instagram to be on top of all of his current work and be ready for a big year over at GS Reptiles. Thank you so much, Gary, for your ongoing support. I really appreciate it. Cheers.
Alrighty, we are back. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us. All right, we have a question that in the chat that I want to hit it's a quick one before we talk about reptiles content wise. So what's the best place to start making content? I figure platform if you're just starting out.
Yeah. It depends on what you're looking for. Personally, I think, but if you're looking for fast growth, then probably TikTok. YouTube for longevity purposes, Instagram for relevancy, Facebook if you're running a business. That's kind of how I think about it personally.
All right. Hell yeah. Good answer. So, reptiles.
Yes.
Let's do it. I want to start with the lace monitors. To go back to it again, congratulations on the clutch recently.
Thank you.
To take it back to the beginning of the project, when did you, I guess, first kind of come across lace monitors? When did they hit your radar? And when did you decide, all right, this is a project that's going to be one of my main focuses moving forward?
Yeah. So I had seen my first monitor lizard, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I think it was probably 6 years ago now. And I'll be totally honest. Like, I was a gecko keeper at the time, and I had never seen a monitor in person. I didn't know anything about them. So my first experience was with I think it was like a 6 foot T positive water monitor. And it was a little bit intimidating because I was like,
yeah, sure.
This is a big lizard. But I loved it. I think that, and maybe I'm an idiot, but I think the adrenaline that monitors give me is why I like it so much.
Yeah.
The fact that, you know, they are so equipped as predators in the wild, but us as humans can build such a complex relationship with them. And it's like real life Jurassic Park to me. It's like you're, you know, looking a velociraptor in the face, modern day, and it enjoys your presence. I mean, a lot of my monitors, when I walk into the room, come right up to the front and they want to come out and they want to hang out with me. My lace monitors, especially, they'll literally crawl right up onto my lap or my leg or whatever. And, you know, my big male Astro, he'll even, like, he does what iguanas do when you scratch him. Like if I scratch him on the you know, top of the base of the tail, like he'll raise his butt up in the air, like the scratch a little bit. But yeah, I mean, with that being said, my first monitor was a yellow-headed water monitor, the Coming Eye.
Okay.
I got that one as a baby. And I was going to get a T-positive water monitor after that. But John and Alex, who I was, you know, I just followed at the time. For those that don't know, that's Sim Container on Instagram. I had followed them and I saw that they were, you know, had a lot of cool stuff. And I saw that they had posted some lace available. And I knew what lace monitors were. I knew that I wanted one, but I knew that they were just so expensive. And I was like, don't know if I can do this right now, whatever. We started talking about it and I ended up getting one of Alex's babies that he had produced, and I still have her. She's actually the girl that laid my first clutch.
Oh, cool.
And her name's Pixel. She's like my child. Like I always tell everyone, if I could only, like, if for whatever reason I could only keep one individual lizard for the rest of my life, couldn't do anything else, it would be her. She's not my prettiest. She's, you know, pretty speckled and pixelated, hence her name. She's not super clean. She's more on the like dirty edge of the spectrum for clean to dirty bells. Yeah. But she's like my child. I raised her from a little hatchling. She used to fit in the palm of my hand, and now she's, you know, a little over 4 feet long, and she just had her first clutch. She is coming up on 5 years old in a few months, I think. So yeah, it's been a long journey with them, and I didn't know where I was going to take it at first. I just knew that I liked lace monitors. Okay. I liked the way they looked. I had heard so much about their intelligence, and I just wanted to work with them. I had no intention at first to breed them. At the time, I didn't have the space to. I'm just going to get the one and, you know, see how I like it. Turns out, you know, and I'm biased, but they are my favorite, like, animals, period, on the planet. I love them. Like, I've got a big old tattoo on my arm. It's hard to see, but that's my other male, Saturn. I took that picture, and the artist basically made a stencil out of it and turned him into that. But my whole life is reptiles in general, but lace monitors are like it for me. Yeah. They are, you know, everyone talks about monitor intelligence. And generally they're all pretty smart, except for some. Some are not as smart as others. A Savannah monitor is not the same as a lace monitor, I'll put it that way. But lace monitors, like there's like 4 species that I put in a category above the normal intelligence of a monitor, and that's Perennies, Komodos, Crocs, and lace. I just think that they're like, the way that they act and the way that they interact with their environment and the way they interact with me. There's even noticeable differences between my yellow-headed water monitors, which are smart animals, very smart animals, but the lace are just way smarter. They're more equipped. They got bigger teeth, sharper claws. They're semi-arboreal. That's why. Yeah. Which you already know that. But, you know, they're just like, It's weird to say, but lace monitors just carry themselves differently than other monitors do.
Yeah,
especially as adults, they have like a confidence that other monitors that I've worked with don't.
Yeah, I agree.
Even croc monitors. Croc monitors, if they're comfortable, they also have that confidence, and that's why I put them in that same category of intelligence.
Yeah.
But if they're scared of you, they bolt, they run.
Yeah.
Lace monitors, at least in my experience, don't do that nearly as much. They like, it's a little bit intimidating, but they kind of hold their ground a little bit. You know what I mean? They, I don't know. I could go on and on for days about how much I love lace monitors.
Hey,
but,
go on and on.
Yeah, no, they're just like the pinnacle for me.
Yeah.
Or if I got access to Perenni monitors, that I would say the same thing about them. But
yeah. I mean, I've only interacted with one Parenti, and it's incredible. But my general understanding is like that's going to be a much more flighty lizard across the board than a lace.
That's what I've been told too. I've never interacted with one, so I wouldn't know. But that's what I've been told. Yeah,
those 4 species, I would that would be my list as well. If I had to pick a top 4 of like the ones that are just cognitively, a cut above. And I think there might be a world where laces are number 2 behind crocs in that hierarchy of intelligence. Those are always my 2 favorite to work with back when I was doing all the monitor stuff with the laces and the crocs. And they're such different animals as well that, to go from one cage to the next, it's just a night and day different experience. And frankly, a lot of the times the experience with the laces was not nearly as heart pounding as the experience with the crocs. I look back and sometimes I'm like, man, I never took a bad monitor bite. I should probably, I knock on wood, I should do something, because man, the amount of times that I was, right up there with an animal that could have done permanent, devastating damage to my body. I was like, it was on almost a daily basis. But yeah, no, I mean,
that's part of the adrenaline that gets me.
Yeah, no, there's something to that as well. I guess maybe I've replaced that with venomous stuff. But so at this point, what does your lace group look like in its entirety?
It's not huge. I only have 3.
Yeah, I thought.
I had more. I sold 2 of them.
Okay.
I had a 2.3. I now have a 2.1.
Okay.
I know that's a dumb order to go from 3 girls down to 1, but I had reasons. And so I've got the 2.1. I've got my adult pair that produce the eggs. Astro is my big male, super clean. Don Church had produced him. I got him secondhand from it was a long, weird thing, but basically this guy had 3 adult male lace monitors in a cage together, which is like, don't do that. But
like
3 adult,
like that's it, just 3 males.
Yep.
No females.
3 adult males in a cage, 2 bells, 1 normal.
Okay.
As far as I remember.
That's different.
And so John at Sim Container had showed me like, this guy's selling some lace. I needed a male at the time. I had a subadult female, which was Pixel. And he was like, this guy is going to sell this bell. Do you want it? And I said, yeah. So John essentially rescued him from that situation because Astro was a subordinate male. The big bell, the other bell, was the main. He was a bully. Astro came to me with the tip of his tail bitten off, a big gouge in his back, and then I think another slash down by his tail, like the base of his tail.
Okay.
Like open wounds bleeding. Like it was not healed over, like it was actively bleeding.
Damn.
Which was obviously no fault of John's. John literally picked him up for me and shipped him to me. John didn't have him. He just did the picked them up and organized it for me, which was great. Yeah. So I had treated him for his wounds. iodine and all that sort of stuff, making sure that he was good. He healed up great. He doesn't even have scars, or if he does, they're like very unnoticeable. Obviously, the tip of his tail's gone. There's nothing we can do about that. It was bitten off, is my assumption. So I got him. He's doing great now. His sheds are worlds different. Like John actually came and visited me a couple of years back when I was in California and had my office space. And I think I had Astro for 8 months or something, maybe a year. And John walks in and he goes, dude, that lizard looks like an entirely new animal. Like, it looks great, because it came to me like stuck shed everywhere, 2 layers of it, and all the, you know, blood. And so I had him, and he came to me puppy dog tame. Like, I opened the box in the car just to make sure that he was good. Because, you know, a lizard that big, he was shipped Delta. And so I picked him up from the airport, and I opened up the box in the car just to make sure he was okay. And I had never owned a lizard that large, so it was a little bit intimidating opening up a box in the car, not knowing the disposition of the animal.
Sure.
He was right out of the box puppy dog tame. Like, you know, Lace have their moments where they're, you know, a little bit food motivated and will snap at something if it moves and whatever. But generally speaking, I would trust that lizard around children. Like,
that's awesome.
He's almost as tame as like those water monitors you see people like, you know, catching their tongue in their hand as they tongue flick, and still won't bite, not even flinch. He's just about that tame.
Wow.
And he came to me that way, and I've been working with him obviously and whatever. And my girl Pixel, she was a hatchling that I raised myself, and she is now also that tame. But I think being around a lizard that was not afraid of humans made her that way. Not that she was iffy with me before, but she was iffy with my now wife.
Got it.
You know, I mean, you know how monitor lizards are.
Sure.
They'll recognize your footsteps over the next person's.
Yeah.
But they, you know, so she was tame, but she was still iffy around other people. And I'd kept her with Astro for a little bit after she had reached adulthood in an attempt to breed them 2 years ago, when she was sexually mature and breeding size. But it wasn't until 2 years later that I actually got eggs. But anyways, so she's, you know, she's great. She's tame, and I love her. And then I have Saturn, which is the one on my arm. He's my prettiest, and he was John's first hatch.
Okay, cool.
I had him and his sister. I named her Pluto, but she was one of the ones that I let go. Robert at Farmhouse Reptiles now has her. Okay. And she's doing great. She's gearing up to cycle and breed too. But yeah, anyways, the long-winded answer, as always, for that question was my group is a 2.1.
Oh, that's where it started, dude. I was just along for the journey. I'm like, all right, this is awesome.
Honestly, I don't even know if that's what the original question was. I think that's what it was.
Hey,
anyways.
So then how are you keeping them? What are your enclosures like? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so I have them in 844s right now, but I'm actually building new caging for my, you know, I basically converted my garage into a monitor room, insulated the garage door and whatever.
That's awesome.
And so that's what I use. And so their new caging that I'm building is essentially each pair will have 16 feet of space. It'll be each cage will be 8 feet long, 4 feet deep, and 7 feet tall.
Wow.
And then I'll have basically what I think I'm probably going to do is some sort of pass through, but I think I'm going to do the entire wall in between the cages. I think that will be able to slide out. And then I'll do, you know, 3D rock work across the entire 16 feet of the back, and then both sides, that all looks like one continuous kind of segment, so that when it is pulled out, it all looks like it flows. But so that they'll, you know, when they're paired up, they'll have that 16 feet by 4 feet by 7 feet tall And then individually, when they're not paired, they'll have 847s, but right now they're in 844s.
That's pretty freaking huge.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. The 847s will take up, 2 cages will be an entire wall in my garage.
Yeah.
So, which is fine. That's, that's the space that I want to give them. And if I could go bigger in the space that I have, I would. Once we buy property out here, and I can, have a dedicated facility that is not inside my house for it, then I'll probably do, 16 8 10s or something each.
Yeah.
Can't do that right now. Don't have the space for it. But 844s are fine. I think long term 844 for an adult male is pushing it a little bit because males can get
fucking huge.
Yeah, males can get big. My male is smaller. I don't know if it's stunted from being, raised with 2 other males or what. Males generally stay a little bit smaller than normals do anyways. I don't know why. They just do. So he's like in that, how big is he? He's probably like 5.5 feet. So he's not, I've seen over 7 foot.
Yeah.
Easy.
They can get freaking giant.
But he's probably like 5.5. And then my female is just over 4 feet. She's probably 50 inches or so. And so, yeah, I'm keeping them like that for now. And then once the new cages are built, I plan to do a tour of all of it, but not built yet. Not done yet.
That's gonna be freaking sweet. So I guess then, considering that that's not where you want to have your final destination be, are you going to build it to where you can kind of take it down and move some of these rock features elsewhere? Or are you kind of planning as far as that goes ahead?
I've thought about it. I think maybe some parts I'll make removable, but I think for the most part, the actual rock work that I'll put in the cage, it'll be a mix of both wood and PVC. The cages will be a kind of a hybrid. So I'll do like a wooden frame, probably like a burnt wooden front just for aesthetics. And then PVC walls, PVC bottom, PVC top, ventilated. I'll probably mount as much of the lighting as I can on the outside because monitors love to play with their lights. So I have so many stories about broken bulbs and monitors hanging from the LED fixtures and the UVB fixtures. So I'll probably try to mount as much of that as I can on the outside, at least the heat. I might do the UVB strips on the inside, just not as accessible to the lizard. But I'll probably build those cages with the intent of them permanently staying like that. With the exception of maybe like I've got some ideas of wanting to make lace monitor nest box, look like a termite mound. Making it look like an actual termite mound and maybe having the, the actual nesting area in the bottom of that where it's, heated via heat cable or something, heat mats. Or what I do, which we can get into too, I don't use any of that for my nest boxes. I just heat the enclosure to make sure that the nest box fits within the ambient temperatures that it, when I need to move it a little closer to the light, or I top heat all of my nest boxes. I don't use any heat pads, heat cables, or anything like that.
All right.
But anyways, I think that if I make removable pieces of the actual rock work, it'll probably be stuff like the nest box or whatever that I can, take out and move around. But otherwise they'll be, like this. The reason why I'm going 7 foot tall is because the standard garage door size is 7 feet tall. I was going to do 6 feet and then put them on casters, but I think what I would rather do is give them the extra foot of space and just when I'm ready to move them, maybe turn them on their side and put a furniture dolly underneath or something.
So
I'm going to go 7 feet tall so that they can physically fit out of the exit of where they're being housed. But yeah, once we have space to be able to go bigger, then I'll go bigger, more extravagant. Like my goal is to make my own private zoo. Actually my larger goal is to make a public zoo, but we'll see how that goes. There's not much of it out here in Tennessee, especially where we're at. We're like 45 minutes south of Nashville. So
Okay.
There's a
Yeah.
national zoo, but
Sure, but it's always so different. I mean, that's like saying like, the zoo in Detroit and the Reptarium would be competing with each other. It's like, no,
Right.
not at all. Night and day different.
right.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised that there aren't more facilities like a Reptarium style public display that have popped up in different cities throughout the US.
I think they will, which is why, for those of us that might want to pursue a dream like that, myself included, I think that it's something that we need to hop on now before somebody else does it in your area, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's our laws out here are really relaxed, as I'm sure yours are too in Texas.
Yeah. Texas is great.
I think yours are actually even more relaxed than ours are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like venomous, even rear fang, I don't think in Tennessee.
Yeah.
I might be mistaken.
We can have some if it's like we can have hog noses and stuff like that, but I think like we can't have false water cobras and boa and stuff.
Yeah.
That being said, we can get a permit for all that sort of stuff, which includes front fang venomous. It's like $1,000 a facility per year. So
that's better than I thought then. Okay.
I think you have to you can't be a private person out of your own house that I don't know the actual rules behind it, but I think you have to be something in order to get that permit.
Got it.
Whether it be a facility that's open to the public twice a year, or at least to meet some sort of criteria.
Sure. Okay. Makes sense.
Or you do by appointment only once a year. You know what I mean? Like just
Yeah,
something that shows that you're not just some person wanting to collect venomous snakes in your house.
Sure.
Which some of us are, and that's totally fine. Not dogging on that at all. But from the government's perspective, you get how it is.
Makes sense.
But I'm sorry, I don't even know what the question was. I forgot.
Oh, we were talking about like the little like small zoo kind of business model, how it hasn't quite popped up to the extent that I figured it would in different cities throughout the country. I mean, like Nashville seems like a great city, especially with all the tourism that goes through Nashville.
That was my thought.
Because like I don't what do you know what's the population of Nashville surrounding?
I don't know. What I do know is that I don't know the exact numbers, but I know the state population in total has gone.
We have the internet, so let me see.
Yeah, great. Yeah, exactly. Because everyone's moving here,
right?
The population has, I think, gone up like stupid numbers. Like I went to the county clerk to get my driver's license when we first moved here, or not my driver's license, my license plate, and she had said something along the lines of like the total state, used to be like 80,000, and within the last few years, within the last decade, probably it's jumped up to like 300,000, or I forgot exactly. Like those numbers are probably so not real. Like I can't imagine that there's only 300,000 people in this state, but she was basically saying that the state has like boomed crazy over the past decade.
Oh yeah. So okay, according to Google AI overview, the city itself is just under 700,000, and then the like greater metro area is just over 2 million. So
that sounds right.
That's a small city, but a pretty good sized city nonetheless. And like as far as metro area goes, it's a very similar population to El Paso, actually a little lower, but there's like no tourism here. Like
really?
No one has a reason to come here.
Yeah.
Where Nashville, I mean, that's got to be one of the bigger tourist hotspots in kind of, in that part of the country. So something like a good Reptarium style facility would probably do fantastic out there.
That was kind of my thought. I can't promise anything as far as, doing something like that, because I haven't even, we're not even at first steps yet. But that was kind of my thought moving out here was like, okay, I mean, even the hobby in general out here is, I grew up in California, so the hobby's huge there. I mean, our local show was the Super Show. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Second to maybe Florida, like the biggest, probably the second biggest hotspot in the country for reptiles is SoCal.
Yeah, no, and that's what I was used to as of, when I had gotten back into the hobby 6 years ago, 7 years ago, whenever it was. And so we moved here, and there's a hobby out here, don't get me wrong, but it's not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close. I felt like when we moved here, like we had gone to like some local shops and whatever, and some of the local shops, like we have one that's close to us that is pretty decent. It's like a pet shop though. It's not a reptile shop. The ones that we visited within an hour and a half of where we live, some of them were okay. But generally speaking, when we would walk into the reptile section of the shop, because usually it would be not just reptiles, it would like be fish and reptiles or mammals and reptiles or whatever. Generally speaking, the reptile side looked like a reptile shop 30 years ago. Like it looks like that standard. And so I was really bummed about that because I mean, like a lot of the local shops that we had, especially in Orange County where I was at, we had really good shops and supplies were plentiful, cool species everywhere, whatever. But now here it's like, if you need anything that's not accessible at PetSmart or Petco, you order it. And so, like I said, we've got a couple of shops relatively near us that are good, or at least decent. And, you know, they carry a decent amount of stuff and supplies and whatever, but they're also really pricey for, you know, compared to online or whatever. Whereas I feel like the disparity between online and retail wasn't as large in California, probably because they're pushing higher volume is what I would imagine. But anyways, all that to say, the hobby out here is tiny. So I would love to kind of grow what we're doing, you know, from our home and online to a physical location that engages the community here, because the community is huge. And so, like you said, Nashville's a huge tourist spot. The Nashville Zoo gets a lot of foot traffic, and their reptile section is pretty good. But and you know, there's like Chattanooga, which is 2.5 hours from here. They've got the Tennessee Aquarium, amazing aquarium. If you guys ever come visit, we're going there. It's amazing aquarium. Really, really liked it. But if we could open something like that, you know, that's a multi-million-dollar project. I don't know if that
question. I
don't know if that's something that's in the cards or not, but you know,
aquariums are nice.
If something like that would be doable, or something like the Reptarium, or you know, the Legacy Aquarium, something like that out here, I can't imagine it would do bad. Especially with all the laws that we have here, like, and it's crazy, especially coming from California, but like the exotic mammal laws out here, crazy. You can, like, no permits, nothing, have almost whatever you want.
Wow.
I mean, if you go USDA, then there's USDA requirements you have to meet, especially if you're open to the public and stuff like that. But that's something that we would love to do out here.
Very cool.
Kind of mostly aquarium reptile focused, but throwing in, you know, maybe an exhibit that focuses on two-toed sloths or binturong or African serval or Eurasian lynx, or, you know, stuff like, not lions, tigers, and bears, but
like
stuff that's like not seen as often, and you know, stuff that people can actually interact with, like how Brian would do with feeding the sloth, or you know, playing with the binturong, or you know, stuff like that.
No, I mean, as much as, you know, we look at that world through our reptile lens, the mammals are where it's at. The charismatic little, you know, like the armadillo. You know, I think Brian had did he have a couple armadillos up at the Reptarium?
I know he at least had one.
Back where the Wildlife Discovery Center where I worked in high school, we had a couple armadillos, and my gosh, what a hit that is with everybody. I mean, if you don't think that little thing is scurrying across the ground, you know, like a little room, like a fast Roomba, isn't the cutest thing in the world, I don't know what's wrong with you.
That's a great way to draw people in that are maybe not used to reptiles or even afraid of them or whatever. It's a great way to draw people in to say, you know, we have all the cute and cuddly stuff, but we also have this, and it's all in the same building, and then we get the opportunity to, you know, show and teach.
Absolutely.
Break fears, all that sort of stuff. I think that's probably a big reason why Brian did it too.
Oh yeah, no question. And you know, that it worked so great, obviously, because of who Brian was, and so many people wanted to come just to see him. But being there and just seeing, you know, even when Brian wasn't around, kids interacting with the animals, and I'm like, this is like the best version of this I've seen. Like I worked in an environment that was very similar to that, and you know, the how like the continuity of the entire thing. It was like one big exhibit essentially, but it was in an intimate enough space to where like you're not going to feel like someone just staring into this giant enclosure like where is this thing? I can't even see it. What's on the side? Like, you know what you're looking at. You know, if you're a fan, you recognize the animal from YouTube or whatever. It just was like, wow, this is, as far as like educating the next generation about reptiles, like I'm not sure if I've seen a better structure than this. You know, it was so cool to see. And like zoos are great. I love zoos, but they don't accomplish the same thing. Like they can't. It's not, they're not set up for it. It's just not what they're not what they're there for. So yeah, it's a great, you know, system. It's a great idea, and I would love to see it, you know, pop up in more places. You know, wishing you guys the best at getting that project done eventually, because that would be super cool.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see. It'll probably be something for the future. But it's an idea right now, a hope and a dream. But you know, if we can make it work out here, it would probably be the only thing of its kind out here. So
yeah, well, if we have any exceedingly rich animal people from the Nashville area watching the show tonight, hit Mason up.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get it going.
Hell yeah. We're kind of approaching that 2-hour mark, but one thing I wanted to talk about before we get out of here is your project with the horn lizards.
Yeah.
I mean, man, talk about a species that you just do not see in captivity, or a genus, you know, that you don't see in captivity for a lot of reasons. But like, you know, that's to me is so inspiring to see you working with those animals. You know, they're an American classic. Like they're such a noteworthy animal. Why, like, what was the thought process of being like, hey, you know, these things are so amazing, let's figure out how to keep them?
Yeah, so I've always loved them. Like you said, they're kind of an American classic. I never considered keeping them, but one of them kind of just fell into our lap.
Okay.
Someone had given us a couple animals on breeder loan, and he also was like, oh, also I have this horn lizard and I don't have time for it anymore. Do you want it? I was like, sure. You know, sure. I mean, we knew enough, right?
Yeah.
So we had, you know, the horn lizard keeping community is so tiny because, like you said, there's not very many people doing it. There's enough though to where people are having success doing it.
Okay.
A couple people have been successful in, I shouldn't say a couple, more than a couple, between the US and Europe, have been consistently producing a handful of different species. So it was kind of, you know, we had the one and we really liked them. If it wasn't for their diet, they would be one of the most popular lizards in the hobby.
Yeah. They
are incredible. They're funny. They're personable. They don't love being held, but they don't mind it either. Once you get them, you know, once you pick them up, they kind of just sit there. You know, they look at you, you know, whatever. They just chill. But they are like incredible. They're fun to watch. They're constantly active. They're diurnal, so they're constantly active during the day. The way they eat is hilarious. The way that like they the Texas horn lizard specifically, we've got a 1.1 of those. Okay. And the male in particular, he's the first one that we got, and he is fucking hilarious. Like he'll run up to his little we have like these 3D printed ant feeders. And he'll run up to the feeder when I fill it up with ants, and like he'll sit there bobbing his head, and he'll wag the little tip of his tail. Like, they're so much fun to watch. And if it weren't for their diet, they would be incredibly popular. But their diet is really tricky. As a lot of people who are familiar with them know, they eat ants. Not even just, do you use one of those stripper pole feeder things? Yeah, we do. It's a 3D printed one, but it's like a 3D printed round cylinder that has a hole in the top, and then a 3D printed stick sticking out to where the ants can climb up the stick, but they can't get out of the cylinder.
Got it.
And they can't reach away from the stick to touch the edge of the cylinder. So it acts as like it simulates an ant nest, like a colony.
Got it. Okay. Cool.
Because, and the way that we do it that way, or the reason why we do it that way, is because ants are still dangerous feeders. The horned lizard can still die from the ants. The ants, they're not immune to the sting.
Damn. That's crazy.
I mean, to a degree, they are. If they get stung a couple times, not a big deal. If they get stung multiple times, especially smaller ones, it can kill them.
Wow.
And ants have a hive mind, so if one stings, then the lizard will be swarmed. So it's very tricky to properly feed them. And if you don't, like, the way that we did it before is, before we knew those ant feeder things existed, was we would dump the ants in and we would watch the lizard eat until the ants were gone, and then we would do it again later in the day or the next day or whatever, but we would sit there and watch and make sure that everything was fine, no ants were getting pissed off and stinging the lizard. And because if you walk away with a lizard in an enclosure full of ants, it doesn't take much to piss off one ant, and then they all swarm the lizard. We've actually had it happen before, to where and luckily we caught it right away because we were watching. But if the lizard steps on the ant, or the ant crawls on the lizard and the lizard moves, one sting, and then they all start stinging the lizard freaks out, runs, and then along its little run, it picks up 3 more or whatever. So what we'll have to do is we will take the lizard out of the cage, because individually picking out every single ant is hard. We've done it before, but it's difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Thank God for the feeders that we use now, because we don't have this problem. But so we'll take the lizard out and we leave it out for about 24 hours, because the pheromones that the ants put off when they sting will not dissipate right away. So if we put the lizard back in 30 minutes to an hour later, the ants will instantly go and try to attack it again.
No shit.
It's crazy.
Wow.
So I've learned a lot about ants in this whole process too.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Not all horned lizards eat the same species of ant. Not all species of ant work for every single type of horned lizard.
Oh wow.
The more montane species are eating a lot of, from what I've been told, like honeypot ants and more, higher elevation kind of stuff. And then the more desert species are eating a lot of, harvester ants primarily, especially in Texas. A lot, the Barbados, I think is the scientific name, whatever it is, Texas harvester ant or something. I can't remember, but that's what the majority of the horned lizards are eating out in Texas and, surrounding states, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada. They're eating harvester ants for the most part. But then the more, higher elevation you go, the different species of ants will change.
So how does one source enough ants to feed their horned lizards?
That's also a great question. It is the weirdest feeder we've ever had to buy. But there's a website called antsalive.com. It's where you would go to order ants for those little ant farms you get as a kid. They keep ants alive for 2 weeks and watch them dig their tunnels and whatever. They have a section on that website called horned lizard food. You can order thousands of ants at a time. And one horned lizard will eat 50 to 100 ants a day. So we'll order, like we have 3 horned lizards. We order about 3,000 ants. It lasts us about 2 weeks. Yeah, it's
Jeez.
and that's with
God.
because we also don't feed ants every day. We will feed crickets, we'll feed black soldier fly larvae, we've done waxworms, we've done mealworms, we do a varied diet. Some species of horned lizard will eat more ants than others, and some require more ants than others, like the Phrynosoma solare, the regal horned lizard in Arizona, and the Texas horned lizard, I think, is one of them. Those are like 90% of their diet in the wild is ants, so they're eating ants most of the time. But then you have like the Mexican giant horned lizards, the Phrynosoma osseos. Those are like they maybe eat 30%, 50% of their diet is ants. They eat a lot of other stuff too. And I don't know exactly, but I've been told that captive bred horned lizards, their requirement for ants is not nearly as much as a wild caught one.
Okay.
Because their bodies haven't adjusted or haven't needed to make an adjustment from, wild to captive, as far as the amount of formic acid that their body needs to regulate itself. So what I've been told is, and I don't know if this is true or not because I've never bred them. We would like to, but I've never tested it. But my understanding is that captive bred ones still need ants in their diet, but not nearly as much as their wild caught or, wild counterparts in general, because the need for formic acid hasn't quite built up, as much as the wild ones would.
And what is the mechanism by which they need that?
The formic acid?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like what purpose does that serve to them? I am completely ignorant to this.
To be honest with you, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
I just know their body needs it to function.
Okay.
I should probably know why, but I don't.
What happens if you try to keep one in captivity on regular commercially available bugs?
It'll eventually die.
Okay.
If you don't have ants for it at all, it will eventually die.
Okay.
That being said, feeding them a varied diet is good.
Okay, so it's definitely not exclusively an ant.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we feed all of ours a varied diet, and it's good for them, as it would be any other reptile. It's just that this one also needs live ants. They can't be dead. They can't be, as far as I know. I mean, maybe in the future that, more information will come out to where you can take dead ants and put them in a blender and make a powder out of them and dust crickets with them. Maybe that is viable. I don't know. But as of right now, you need live ants. And there's ant restrictions on what species of ant can be shipped to certain states. So
I imagine so.
Because they're considered a pest, an invasive pest. So there's one species, which is the Ants Alive website. They sell Pagana myrmex occidentalis. That is the species that can be shipped to, I believe, 46 of the 50 states legally. So that's probably the most common feeder that people get for them.
Okay.
But yeah, to do the feeding of the ants too, it's like we'll put the ants in some sort of container and we'll freeze the container, or I'm sorry, we'll put the container in the refrigerator and they go dormant. The ants will go dormant. And then we'll take the container out, scoop some of the ants into a little glass like feeder cup. And then we'll dust them with calcium, vitamins, whatever we're doing for that feeding. And then we'll put them in the freezer until the ants completely knock out. Because once they knock out, we put them in the enclosure, and as they come back up to temperature, they're slow and they kind of like it's like they're waking up, and so they're not thinking, I'm pissed off, I'm going to go sting something. Versus they have no idea what just happened and they're just kind of waking up in a new place.
Yeah.
Because we've also done it before where we don't put them in the freezer first, and the second they touch the ground, they're instantly running trying to fight something. And in an enclosure where you obviously have horned lizards that are not immune to the sting, that's a problem. So that's the way we do it. They're great lizards, and I think that they have potential for people who are willing to put in the work, and captive bred ones will be easier to care for than wild caught ones will. There's also a lot of restrictions on wild caught horned lizards because a lot of times they're protected depending on where they come from. Not always, but most of them are. But I think there's potential for them in the hobby. I've gotten a lot of shit for keeping them. A lot of people don't think it's all from, a lot of them are herpers and whatever. A lot of people don't think that they should be in the hobby, period. Which I can see an argument to that too.
Sure.
But my kind of viewpoint of it was I did not go and collect these animals out of the wild. We had gotten them either from someone who breeds them and had an extra female or extra male or whatever, or, secondhand, like I said, a random, well, he's not random. He owns a shop in Southern California. He was like, hey, I have this. Do you want it? Sure. I'm not going out and, purging the population.
Right.
But that being said, I can also understand the argument of, well, you're posting about them and, maybe it gives somebody else the motivation to go and purge the population.
Yeah.
That's another problem too. That's why in a lot of my posts where I post about them, I specifically say, do not go do this because their numbers are not plentiful in the wild. And if you get one, you will probably kill it. So,
yeah. No, and that's another nuance of the hobby that, you can't hit put a one size fits all kind of distinction on, don't collect anything from anywhere in the US who want to preserve these populations. Like, okay, best case scenario, but there are certain reptiles that like really shouldn't be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like one that I remember, obviously was a trend for a while of wild caught animals that didn't do quite as well, or they weren't quite the difficult prospect of a horned lizard, but the Abronia that were being smuggled in by the thousands, the tens of thousands, and of all those animals that were smuggled into the US, I mean, man, we'd be lucky if there were a few hundred left to show for it. Like those animals did really poorly in captivity. So as a hobby, we need to recognize when there's a species like that and understand that, you may go, let's say they're horned lizards and you're somewhere in Texas where there's a bunch of them. You collect 200 horned lizards and you sell them for whatever. And oh, look at you, you've made your money. Okay, they're all dead in like a year. And you never see a horned lizard again where you took them from.
Yep.
And they're gone probably forever.
Yep.
For what? For literally nothing.
Yep. No, that's the hardest part about especially US native stuff where people can just go and pick them out of the wild. A lot of snakes, a lot of, whatever. And so I'm pretty outspoken about, because I think the horned lizards are probably the most like at risk for what we keep, as far as like being a US native species that everyone recognizes and probably would want to try to keep. Because like we keep hognoses too, but you can go buy those on MORPH Market,
Right, exactly. No need for them. Or like Gila monsters. Plenty of people breed Gila monsters. You never, and man, if you pick up if you grab a Gila monster, good luck. They're gonna be coming at you.
A lot of them are microchipped.
I mean, I've heard some crazy stories about what Fish and Game will do to basically entrap people into. It's nuts. Yeah. If you want a Gila monster, support a Gila monster breeder.
Exactly.
But sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, you're definitely right.
No, you're good.
The horned lizard that would be one that would be at risk for something pretty bad happening.
Yeah, no, it's one of those situations to me where I'm like, I have them. I'm going to try to produce them because regardless of whether I did or didn't have them, again, I can see the argument of like, well, if you post them as someone who has a large following, you're going to build, hype for them.
Sure.
But I think realistically, a lot of what people don't realize is a lot of that following isn't going, oh, I'm going to go look for these in the wild and I'm going to catch them and bring them home and keep them. Maybe some of the herpers are thinking that.
Yeah.
The people who do collect and whatever, or the people that are in the reptile hobby and have access to that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The majority of those comments that are in the people that are watching that content are saying, oh, that's cool. Where can I get one? Meaning, where can I go buy one? You can't.
Yeah.
Right. So, and they're like, well, I'm not going to go out and search for one, which great,
Yeah.
don't. But it's kind of one of those situations where I'm like, okay, we've got them. We're going to try to breed them. We don't want to breed a lot of them.
Yeah.
But I think that, especially if it's true that captive bred individuals don't require the same levels of live ant feeders that their wild caught counterparts do.
Yeah.
It's something that could probably be feasible for a lot of people, especially given the safe methods that we've learned to feed them. I think it could be great. I don't think they should be in the hands of everyone. And if we are successful breeding them, we will not just release them to anyone. We'll probably keep a lot of the babies back for ourselves and then kind of go from there, put them in the hands of a handful of responsible keepers that we know will go the extra mile to make sure that they get what they need.
Yeah. For sure.
But they lay a lot of eggs. We don't plan to produce a whole bunch of them if we're even successful to do it in the first place. There's other guys that are doing it. They're just, a lot of them are old underground guys that don't have social media. You usually find them on Facebook. But yeah, it's all to say, don't go out and find horn lizards and keep them in captivity from the wild, because you will probably kill them. They are not easy. They, from what I understand, don't acclimate super well a lot of the time.
Okay. Makes sense.
And so don't go out and be sniping horn lizard populations, because in a lot of places they're not very prevalent to begin with.
Yeah.
That being said, in some places they're fucking everywhere, but in most places where there's horn lizards, there's not a whole lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, man, especially out here where there are horn lizards, during the time of year when they're moving, it really is depressing driving down certain roads, how many just one after the next, you're like, oh my gosh. And, I'd have to imagine, as far as lizards go here, there are probably none more that are hit on the road than horn lizards in the U.S.
Yep. Yeah. Well, they're not super fast, and when they get scared, they freeze up.
Yeah, that's the worst part. Because like a little whiptail, like, oh fuck, it'll take off, but the horn lizards kind of scurry, stop, and yeah.
Well, something that's at least mildly comforting in regard to that is, I think you guys have 3 species of horn lizards there, and the Texas horn lizards, I believe, are the most prevalent. They're the most prevalent horn lizard, period. They span across most of the southwestern United States and into northern Mexico. The Texans have the widest range and the best numbers in the wild for horn lizards in general, and those are the ones we keep.
Yeah.
And then we've got one female Mexican giant horn lizard that was given to us.
And that's kind of what I figured, just in the wild. Like, if there are this many that are hit on the road, how many thousands of them are within like few miles off the road? It's like, okay, as much as it sucks to see that, it's kind of a good sign of the population, because the amount of them that are going to do this dumb thing, it's a fraction of the ones that are out there. So,
well, and something that's stressful about the horn lizards in particular is because they depend on ants. There's so many different things that are starting to take their native food away from their habitat, whether it be pesticides or invasive other species of ants that are then invading the nests of the native ants and pushing them out or killing new queens or whatever. And so that is probably one of that, and roadkill are probably the 2 biggest threats to the horn lizard, not over collection, because people, I don't think very many people are collecting them to begin with.
No. And
which is a good thing.
Keep it that way.
Yep. Don't go catch horned lizards. Don't do it.
You can
There's
go
a few people
observe
breeding them, and you will get one. If you want one that bad, there are a few people breeding them, and you can find a captive bred one. You just might have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, they're fun to go observe, help them get across the road if they're being stubborn, and just enjoy them in the wild. That's what I got to say to that. But with all that said, though, it is super cool that you are working with them, having success with them. It is. I don't know. I know for me, I would never keep an animal like that because I hate specialty feeders.
Yep.
That's just who I am. I found
do too.
that out over the last 15 years. You know, that's why I don't keep Matthias anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's really cool to see. And I think stuff like that is just great for herpetoculture as a whole, because it, especially someone like you who has a large platform, just to get the seed of the idea in someone's mind, whether it be a horned lizard or anything else, just to do something that's totally off the beaten path that like very few people are even considering.
Yeah.
Because I'm not even sure, you know, I'm mostly in the snake world. I'm not even sure I had even seen somebody have a horned lizard in captivity before I saw you posting about it. Mason has
not very many.
Like, what the heck is going on here? So I think it's super cool, and you know, a big part of what I hope the future of herpetoculture holds is stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's, you know, you can, as much as we say, protect the wild populations, and that is very, very important. I think that responsible wild caught, meaning if numbers are dwindling in the wild for whatever reason, and you know, a lot of zoos and conservationists and whatever will do this, where they'll go out and they'll collect a handful of specimens, they'll breed them in a controlled area and whatever. I think that that's really good.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You know, it's I don't know. There's just certain, you know, humans are for the most part harming the earth in a lot of ways and nature in a lot of ways. And I think that those responsible breeding efforts are great. And at some point, every single pet that we have in the hobby, regardless of whether it's a reptile or not, fish, you know, birds, mammals, all that sort of stuff, at one point was wild caught. I think the important thing now is don't, you know, bring in wild caught animals from overseas or collect them natively with the intent to just keep as a pet. I think that they need to be in the hands of people who intend to breed them, and then, I mean, in an ideal world, cap it at a certain number of, you know, either individuals collected or people keeping, or both.
Sure. So. Definitely depending on the species as well. But yeah, like get your founder stock, every now and then another animal for the sake of genetic diversity, but like every animal and you know, every animal out of the wild having a purpose for that. And, you know, like for instance, it's kind of I wish the entire picture looked like this, but like for instance, with Indonesia, we get many fewer Indonesian imports than we did, let's say 10 years ago. That's not because they're collecting less, they're selling less to the US, but let's say it was for that case that they were collecting less. Now, at least for the US hobby, no matter what the reason is for it, you know, an import of scrub pythons or tree monitors or blue-tongued skinks or whatever it may be hits our shores. You know, we as hobbyists who care about those animals, like every single one of those really matter to us.
Right.
To where in a year where, you know, let's say like Maruki blue-tongued skinks, if there were like 500 of them, well, there might be 500 again next year.
Yeah.
If there are 5 this year, okay, now those 5 really matter. So, you know, it's definitely a less is more type of situation when it comes to wild caughts. And, you know, hopefully more people can see that. And you know, they're so demonized in general, I feel like, in the hobby by especially a lot of the more casual or newer people, that I don't think there's got to be much convincing to be done that wild caught isn't ideal.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's not the worst uphill battle to face, but definitely like really appreciating those animals, you know, treating them as like kind of the, you know, like little like nuggets of gold that they are for the sake of genetic diversity in our hobby. And, you know, really make sure that that animal getting taken out of the wild was, you know, not for no purpose.
Right. No, exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, even if it comes down to the idea of assurance colonies, right? Like, look at the axolotl, so prevalent in captivity. It exists in what, 1 or 2 lakes now in the wild, something like that. And its numbers are
that's crazy.
Like, the wild axolotls are almost non-existent, but they're everywhere in captivity.
Yeah.
So, in cases like that where, say, the lake gets stupid polluted and, they can still survive in that area, but not that specific lake anymore. Well, you can reintroduce them to a place that's cleaner.
Yeah,
whatever.
Absolutely. I have one question that's been in the chat since almost the beginning that I need to bring up as a good closer here. I don't know if Calvin's still watching, but here it is. Ask Mason about his ketchup on chicken situation.
Calvin, I hate you for that. So, Alec, right?
Yeah.
So his family they own a restaurant in Orange County. And I worked for that restaurant with him and, some of his cousins and some different friends and one of our other close friends. And so we all worked at this restaurant. It's a Mediterranean restaurant. Really, really good food. And Alec took a video of me, I guess, like, preface this by saying I really like ketchup. It's like I'll put it on almost anything. And so Alec took a video of me standing over the trash can on a 10-minute break, eating pita bread with rotisserie chicken and ketchup. And a little quick snack, whatever. And
nothing of it.
And so Alec then sent that video to Calvin, and now I'm disgusting for putting ketchup on rotisserie chicken and pita bread. That's the story.
Wow. Calvin, I'm so glad I waited almost 2.5 hours to ask that. What a great contribution you made, Calvin. All right, cool. Well, Mason, thank you so much for doing the show tonight, man. This was a great conversation.
Yeah, of course.
Great getting to talk to you again. For anyone who wants to keep up with what you're doing, if they're not already following you, where can you be found on the internet?
Just Mason Barnes on everything. Just my name. I've got a couple other accounts that are linked on, like, my Instagram profile, but if you search my name, you'll find those too. Building the brand.
Yeah.
But for the most part, everything's just my name.
Cool. All right. Well, dude, thank you once again for being here tonight. And thank you everybody for watching and listening. And I'll catch you all back here next week for a new show.